Hello everyone, welcome back to League of Legends DFS Esports Breakdown for our first episode in August. It is the August 3rd slate. This should be a pretty interesting 4-gamer here that we have coming up. A couple close games, a underdog or two that I'm looking at off the bat, so this should be pretty fun. We can kind of quickly recap, because we did have a couple of good days previously. So we had the OMG upset over V5 as a pretty decently sized underdog. I don't remember if that was something I tweeted out or if I made the video on, but I believe either way, I had put it out there that the OMG pick versus V5 was something I was looking at, and it did end up coming through. We had RNG as the slight favorite over JDG, but that was also on the slate where we had a couple of LCK underdogs, which we'll talk about in a second. So overall, reads I think are pretty decent with where we are, so that is something to keep in mind. Don't know why I clicked on that, but we can look over in the LCK where I think we're getting a pretty good grasp on some of these teams. I did end up tweeting this one out as well. Fredit Brion over Nong Shim. They were a slight underdog, but I was very surprised and confused by this price tag. So this is definitely one where I think we made out pretty well. Fredit Brion underdog upset over Nong Shim. KDF Hanwha, slight lean there. We had the correct side of this Gen G over T1, again, slight favorite. And then these, I don't remember, a slight underdog maybe, I think, with Live Sandbox. This was the slate where EDG was the gigantic favorite, and then we had three 50-50 games, and we ended up getting all four of them right. So I think overall our trend and reads are pretty good. I don't remember if we had talked about or if we had recapped this or not, but we had the KT Rolster underdog win in there as well. So overall, I think we're on a pretty good trend of games here, so we can go ahead and get started looking into tomorrow. So I'm actually pretty intrigued to see some of the price tags on some of these games. So I did look at the DK slate first, as I typically do. So I'm going to be intrigued to see some of these price tags. I think there's a wide variety of things that I could see happening here. So I'll be intrigued to see that. But I think the first series up, TT versus LGD. LGD are swapping in and out a few players. They're going back to Shadow in the jungle. They're bringing Yeji in mid lane, and then Eric back at the AD carry position. What is this? Whatever. I thought that picture would mean something, but I think overall this is a pretty significant downgrade for LGD. I don't know what is inspiring them to do this again. I know Yeji is a relatively young player, so I do think it is somewhat fair to get him some time. However, so is Haichao, and I think Haichao has shown a lot more potential. I do think Shadow is the better jungler. I do think that is the right move to go with Shadow over Quay. But putting in Eric over Asim makes virtually no sense. So that's just weird. I think they were kind of clicking and getting something rolling here. I think Fearness, Shadow, Haichao, Asim, and Jinjiao would be the best possible lineup here. They're going with 3 out of that 5. However, I think it is pretty important to have decent mid and AD carry player, the two carry roles. So overall, I think this is a pretty bad lineup from LGD that they're rolling out, and I think they're going up against a pretty decent TT team that I think is going to be competing and I think getting that playoff spot that I think is really, really hitting a stride as well. TT is going with Xiaosheng over Hoya. Hoya, I think, was playing relatively decent. He just had kind of ups and downs. It seemed like he was a little over-aggressive sometimes, and when it worked, it looked good. When it didn't, it looked bad. So, I'm not too, it's not too big of a difference either way. However, they are going with Xiaosheng, so it's worth noting. But the rest of the lineup, Beishuan, Yukao, Kepler, and Yao Yao was the same. I think this is a pretty significantly one-sided game towards TT. I don't think LGD have been playing that great, and I think swapping out and downgrading 2 players here in the mid and AD carry roles are setting up pretty poorly. So I would, in my mind, I have TT as a relatively decently sized favorite. I don't know, throwing a number out there, I could see TT as legit like a minus 200 something. Uh, I think TT is a good bit better than LGD here, maybe like minus 260 even. That's a number that's coming to mind. So yeah, I'm just going with TT here. Just don't love the swapping out players aspect of it. Again, I said this many times, but I think teams should just try and stick something out. A pretty marquee and exciting matchup here between Weibo and JDG. So this is when I do want to look at kind of match history going up here. So JDG did suffer their second loss not too long ago. I believe that was to RNG, and we were on the right side of that one. Weibo got the 2-0 over LGD, OMG TT. So they had the 2-1 over V5 again here as well. But again, that was when the start of the unraveling of V5 was commencing. So, that's something to keep in mind. That maybe that V5 victory doesn't look quite as good now. So, JDG got the 2 over them as well. Yeah, it is what it is. So, thoughts on this one? Or another with LGD and Weibo are the teams getting the blue side selection here, so that's something to keep in mind as well. However, again, I don't know if it's too much of a something to keep in mind. Yeah, Weibo JDG, kind of trying to get back on track here mentally. Pretty close, pretty exciting for this one. I do think JDG will be the favorite, and I do think it will make sense. I do think this one can definitely go either way, though. I think both these teams have been playing at a relatively similar stage. However, I think I am going to slightly lean towards just the favorite of the JDG side. I've not been too overly impressed with that many players, I think, from the Weibo side. Specifically the top three. I think the Shy, SOFM, and Angel have kind of been a little bit overrated in a sense. I don't think 369. I mean, I think 369 has been playing extremely stellar. He's probably my pick for the best top laner of the LPL so far. Kanavi and Yagao have been playing okay. I just don't think that one can go particularly either way. I'm just not a big fan of how Angel's been playing, or SOFM really. I'm just not a big fan of their play style, and a lot of the things is just not too inspiring with them. Huanfeng and On versus Hope and Missing, I think that is a slight lean towards the JDG side. Again, I think this series could be pretty close. I do think these teams are very similarly skilled. However, again, I'm just going to slightly lean towards this JDG side. I do think they are just a slight bit better. Especially when it comes down to the top side, I do think that top lane matchup is going to be incredibly important. I do think the Shy and 369 are both playing very, very well at the moment. So that's the thing to keep in mind. I do think this is going to be a heavily top side dictated matchup. Look to focus on these top laners, jungler and mid laner, specifically to go ahead and get up towards that top lane, part of the map, make things happen there. And I just favor the 369 side in that one. So I'm liking the JDG side in this one. Probably 2-1. I think this one goes 3 pretty much either way. So over 2.5 minus 105. I don't think that's a particularly bad bet. But as you can see, it's grayed out at the moment. So I don't know. But yeah, I think this one probably goes 3. You could definitely make the case that when we look at Weibo getting the job done in 3, definitely makes sense. If we do look at the kind of blue side, red side splits, JDG 7-2 on blue, Weibo 4-0 on blue on the red side. Weibo 6-4, JDG 6-4 as well on red. So both teams fine really on both sides. I do think that kind of blue side is coming a little bit back more to neutral. I don't think we're seeing as much blue side dominance, as we saw not too long ago. So, I'm not too entirely worried about that. I just have a slightly better feeling with JDG. I could definitely see JDG doing a little bit better in this matchup. again, I think this is a really close 50-50 match. Like, I think this is going to be an exciting game to watch. I definitely think it could go either way. I'm just slightly favoring the GDG side to get the job done in 3, which kind of seems to be just the way that they play and the way that they've been doing this. So, yeah, I'll go that way. Although I think this is going to be a pretty exciting matchup and one I think is going to be pretty bloody as well. So speaking of that, we can bring up the numbers here. I should bring this up earlier. My bad. But as we could see, the past, I have it outlined here, the samples, roughly the 15 to last 20 games that they've played. That goes for both leagues here. LGD get that blue side, Weibo get the blue side as well. Again, I'm mentioning it, but again, I don't think it's the biggest thing, anymore. I don't think it's quite as pronounced again, but I do think it is still slightly favoring towards one side, which is that blue side. These LPL matchups are incredibly bloody at the moment. I think Weibo and JDG, LGD, TT, both of these teams are playing at an incredible pace. I do expect both of these matchups to be heavily bloody. We're nearing 27 kills per game in the Weibo JDG series. We're at a little bit over 26 in the LGD TT series. So both of these are the direction I want to go. Unfortunately, it is probably going to be just both of these favorites here for me. LTT minus 310. I think this is a relatively fair price tag in that one. JDG minus 165. Again, I do think that's the value side is probably technically over on the Weibo one. Weibo always do kind of play to their opponent's level. I don't think that's something you could definitely take away from them. That's something we definitely see. They play down to everybody, which is why I pick underdogs against them so often. However, again, I do think they do play up to their opponent's level quite well as well. I do wonder how they've played against other top teams. That's something I'll look at here, and maybe it'll tell us something. So. So far, JDG have 2 losses. Let's look here. Let's look at the diagram. That's probably an easier way to do this. So JDG, they lost to FPX and RNG. Nothing too scary there. Weibo. Why am I not seeing their logo here? Oh, they're at the bottom. That's crazy. So they've lost to AL, EDG, RNG, and Top Esports. So one kind of anomaly loss here with AL, and then a few okay losses to RNG and Top Esports. So not the worst defeats there. They're also going to 3 in a majority of their games. I don't know. This is a tough one. It is a close one. I would like to have a dog here. It would feel nice to stack up the TT favorites with an underdog here of Weibo. I just don't feel it. I just don't feel that side. You probably might have to go down to like a double jungle or maybe even a top lane captain. I do think you could justify getting like a 369 captain in there, just with how well he's been playing. But we'll talk about the players later. So double LPL favorites here, not that great, but I think there might be an underdog here we can pair them up with in the LCK. So as we transition over to the LCK, I don't think we need to talk much about Genji, Kwangdong. Genji minus 1600. I think they probably get the 2-0 as they have been doing to everyone. So nothing crazy, in that aspect. I think Genji to 2-0 is going to be like minus 300 or something even. It's not even an option here. So yeah, it's bad. Genji 2-0. Expected kill total very low. Not one I want a part of. Team slot even is up to 6K. If you have the money, great. You can get up to that point, but I don't really love that spot either. So yeah, I think overall, I'm entirely fading this Kwangdong Genji series. There's just nothing in it for me. However, in the Live Sandbox Dom 1-1, I actually do think this is a pretty good spot for Live Sandbox. So we definitely seen a few times now. Dom 1 have been looking pretty shaky. We got advantage. We took advantage of it last time out with the KT upset, and I think KT is not even as good as Live Sandbox. I think they played recently, didn't they? Nope, they did not. They play next, upcoming. So Overall, I find this price pretty surprising. I definitely do not think Dom1 have been playing very well. I do think there is a pretty good argument to be made that Live Sandbox is the third best team in the league. I think people are extremely overreacting to their loss to Nongshim. But that's really all they've lost to. I don't know where the LCK results diagram is here. Up here. Sorry, excuse me. So Live Sandbox do have a defeat versus Dom1 already. They've lost 2 to Gen G, 1 to T1, 1 to Dom1, and then they split the series with 1-1 versus Nongshim. So that's where their 5 defeats have come from. Overall, they've only really lost the elites outside of that one Nongshim time. I'm just pretty surprised by this price. I really am. I wish I could pinpoint a little bit more on what is going wrong. But Dom1 just kind of looked bad. I can't put exactly what it is. But Dom1, they've just had so many problems. They just have not looked good in a lot of aspects. It seems like they overforce things sometimes, and then when they play passive, they're also leaking gold. It just feels like a lot of their decision making is gone, and specifically their last like 3 series or so. Maybe it was a week thing where last week they specifically looked bad. Maybe they come back this week after a couple days off and look a little bit better. I wouldn't be shocked by that. Again, the talent that Dom1 have is pretty insane. I can't overlook that. I just think last 3 series, Dom1 have not looked good. They've looked very sloppy. A lot of their things that they're doing just don't make sense. I think LSB is a pretty aggressive team, and I think they could put Dom1 in bad scenarios. I think LSB, as my underdog pick for the day, will make a lot of sense here. They do get side selection as well, but again, not quite as pronounced, especially over in the LCK. It feels a lot more neutral in that sense. So overall, I like LSB a good bit here. I am very surprised by the odds on this one. I think if anything, it should be like a minus 130 Dom1, favorite. I could definitely see that as a more reasonable price tag. I do think Dom1 is probably the slightly better team. They are the, probably more individually talented. I do think they have a lot of things in their corner. Like their experiences is obviously much higher. Just everything it feels like is in Dom1 favor, except for form. So I would understand why Dom1 would be like a slight favorite. However, again, I kind of don't want to talk in circles here, but LSB have been playing pretty well as of late. Again, they dropped a series to Nongshim. I don't want to overreact to this one series where they looked bad and things weren't clicking one time for them. Like, I'm not going to write off a team just because they didn't look good in one series one time out of the past month. And that's all it comes down to. I think overall LSB are actually probably the 3rd best team in the league right now. I do think they are playing better than Dom1. I am very surprised by this price tag. I think Dom1 should be a slight favorite. They're a pretty decently sized favorite, so I'm going with LSB. I'm definitely very comfortable having them as my underdog pick for the day. Even if I had other underdogs, I would definitely be getting them in. I think this is a pretty good spot for LSB. Yeah, I'm just pretty shocked by this price. I could definitely see this is a much closer game. It could probably go 3, and there's definitely some concern that LSB don't score that great, but we've seen them doing enough, especially their proactivity is insane. I do worry that Dom1's levels are not the best, but however, we've seen in Dom1's defeats that they've been actually giving up, I think, a good bit here. So if you look at Dom1's defeats, it's at a 0.71, which is a little bit higher. 115 deaths in 7 losses. What is that? Like 13 or something. I don't know. Top of my head math, not good. I'll give you that. But overall, I think in those defeats they've been giving out enough, and I'm definitely not scared of that. So I'm definitely fine with locking and loading some LSB to mix and match with my LPL favorites of JDG and TT. So that'll be it for my teams talk. We'll go ahead and move on to the players and then get out of here. Again, going to set the patch to our same parameters here that we have here, just 12, 12, and 12, 13. For the teams, we are going with, JDG, LSB, and TT. So I think we have to put Thundertalk Gaming. That should bring it up. So, yep, we do have that. Do look at the players. Obviously, we won't be having Hoya. It will be Xiaosheng, but I think Xiaosheng's numbers will be relatively similar. I don't expect too much differentiation in the LPL top lane meta. So overall, we take a look. I think overall at the groupings, we have a decent group here of 3 TT players: Yao Yao, Yukal, and Beishuan. So that is mid jungle support. It looks like Kepler is relatively low down at 65%, but that's actually not that bad. This is actually pretty close between a lot of these players. We even have 3 top laners nearing the 60%. That's definitely pretty decent. They're all playing Gnar, which is a more group-oriented, top laner. So yeah, I think we have a lot of options here. I think overall pretty exciting slate. I think we definitely, when we look at the overall groupings of our LSB, we have Kyle, Croco, Prince, and Closer, all 67% and above. Even Dove at 60, I would not be afraid of. He either goes, I think, to the Gnar or the Ornn, which are both, neither of the champions get kills too much, but they are participating in the fights, which is kind of all you ask for from your top laner. So I'd be fine mixing and matching him as well. I think getting a little bit different with a closer captain makes some sense. He has a really high level as top laners. I would look to get Closer and Yukal together. I think these two have been putting up some pretty strong numbers as well lately. I think getting a Closer and Yukal together as like a mid lane captain, get to get a little bit different, makes some sense. Obviously, our AD carries are putting up insane numbers: Prince, Kepler, and Hope. I'm fine with going with any of those as well. I don't think there's any players here I'd really X off at all. I think there's a lot of good options you can mix and match with. I do think there's options where you can get different and try to get like a 3-6-9 captain with it would be Xiaosheng. I do think you get 2 top laners at 60%. I don't know if you can do double jungle, but I think if that would probably be extremely popular. A Kanavi captain with Beishuan, I do think that makes sense as well, although that's like a little bit more of a cash game thing because it's double favorites. So that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, overall, this is going to be my approach for the day. Again, I'm typically 3 lineups. I try to find 3 teams, but maybe if there's 2 teams I like, then I'll get different that way. If there's multiple underdogs, I'll get different that way. At the end of the day, I just kind of pick the teams and spots that I like, and these spots make a lot of sense to me. Again, the JDG versus Weibo one, it feels pretty weird to me. I could definitely see that one going either way. So if you did want to get a little bit different, if you had a different feeling from me and you wanted to go Weibo over JDG, I wouldn't fault you too much for that one. But overall, I actually feel pretty good about LSB. Surprisingly, I kind of feel better about LSB than I do JDG. Just by LSB being a decently sized underdog, I like TT over LGD a good bit, although there's definitely some level of concern there, of course. So, I think that will be it for me today. I don't know how long the video ran, but I feel pretty good about kind of getting everything out there that we were talking about. We have our players out there. We have a few pivot spots or ways to get different. So, yeah, that will be it for me today. Again, LPL teams looking extremely, extremely interesting. I feel like some of the low-level matchups have been kind of hit or miss. So there's definitely a case where if you were a huge multi-enter, multi-lineup guy, or girl, if you're a person, if you have multiple lineups, if you make a ton of lineups, I don't think making LPL game stacks is that bad. Especially now that we are trending towards the end of the LPL season, we see some crazy things happen. Obviously, you guys know, if you've been following the channel for a while, you'll know a story that I will tell at the end of the year about a few years ago in the LPL when we had the when we had a team owner come and play games for the team. I'll tell that story another time, but we see some crazy things happen. Obviously, Weibo and JDG are two high-level teams. They're playing for something. However, that we've never seen that stop either of these teams, of course, from getting crazy. We know LGD and TT are actually playing for playoffs, so we could definitely see them playing a little bit slower for that reason. Yeah, there's a lot of craziness happening here. We know LSB and their over aggressiveness is definitely open for I don't want to say, how do I say this? LSB's willingness to always fight is what enables them to be, I think, viable pretty much at all points. LGD, TT, again, kind of two relatively low-level teams, but TT are playing for playoffs, so that could slow them down. And then obviously the Weibo JDG clash is of two high-level teams. However, we've seen both of these teams willing to throw down and willing to fight a ton, so I like all those spots, but I'm kind of just talking in circles at this point. So, yeah, that'll be it for me tonight. I will see you guys all again tomorrow, hopefully at a similar or earlier time. Yeah, best luck to you guys all tonight, and I'll see you guys all then.